Hello, everyone. I am Matt Williamson. How is everyone doing this wonderful day? I'm sure you're in good spirits. I've had some time to dig in deeper, of course, to Steelers-Ravens. Huge win. And as we always do with this one, let's go over snap counts first and then a bunch of bullet points. So there was a possible 77 offensive snaps, as you could imagine. The entire offensive line, with the exception of Isaac Seumalo, played every snap. Isaac missed 2. Russell Wilson missed 3 snaps when they brought Fields in. Pickens played 68 of 77 snaps. That is an awful lot and way more than any other Steeler receiver. Now, these players all played 44 snaps. Najee, Washington, and Freiermuth. So all those guys played equal numbers. Van Jefferson was the next receiver up at 43. And then we got a bit of a drop-off after that. We got 26 snaps for Austin and Warren, 25 snaps for Mike Williams. And I got to say, the receivers other than Pickens were very nondescript in this game. Skoranek played 20 snaps, mostly as a blocker, but it's an interesting wrinkle, but he's not the scariest downfield threat route runner, of course. Connor Hayward did a lot of fullback stuff, 19 snaps. Cordell Patterson, 12. Scott Miller and Spencer Anderson, 7 apiece. As mentioned, Justin Fields played 3. And you gotta love when Minkah Fitzpatrick ends up on the offensive snap counts with 2, because that means you're in the victory formation. All right, Steelers defensive snaps. Out of a possible 61, former Raven Patrick Queen, who played really well in this game, and Minkah played every snap. 58 for Porter, 55 for Jackson. High number for Watt, 52. High number for Herbig, 50. 46 for Elliott, 39 for Ogunjobi, who I thought had a good game, and Hayward. 31 for Benton and Roberts. 29 for Beanie Bishop, who's starting to win me over a little bit. Peyton Wilson, 21. KZ, 20, often as a single high safety. Dean Lowry, 20. I bet that's his highest snap count. Loudermilk at 18. Preston Smith, only 17. Cam Sutton, only 15 after not being so good a week ago. Moon, 5. Pierre, 2. Killebrew, 1. One snap count thing I need to bring up for the Ravens. And I think this is coaching malpractice, to be honest. And I kind of understand why they did it, and maybe more on that later, but I don't really understand why they did it. Their offense played 61 snaps. Derrick Henry was only out there for 30. Under 50% for the offensive player of the year who's setting records and leading the league in rushing and all that Derrick Henry stuff. We all know he wasn't out there for the 2-point conversion. But to have him only on the field in a game that you're not trailing by a million for half of the snaps is bonkers to me. It's overthinking this thing. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA and college basketball, NHL to UFC and MMA. Head to BetOnline today to get on the action with America's most trusted site. For online wagering, BetOnline, the game starts here. Lamar is 64-19 against the 30 other NFL opponents. You can't play yourself and the Steelers. With a 144-40 touchdown to interception ratio. Hall of Fame, awesome stuff. But he's now 1-4 against the Steelers with a touchdown to interception ratio of 5-8. That's how stark difference it is. He was, this is an interesting one too. Mike Sando is a friend of mine. We worked at ESPN together. And he does this thing called a quarterback's betrayal index. how much you get betrayed by your team. And the other way of looking at it is how much you get helped by your team, namely defense and special teams. Example, during the Ben era, I remember this vividly. He would talk about what quarterbacks are getting the most help and who aren't. Ben often got a lot of help from his defense, but not nearly as much as Brady. Brady got a lot of help from defense and special teams. The guy that was always at the bottom of the list of the top quarterbacks was Phillip Rivers. Chargers are kind of dysfunctional. So Phillip Rivers was like number one on the QB betrayal index, which is kind of funny. But Lamar was number one entering week 10 on that index because his MVP caliber production had overcome the Ravens' poor play on defense and special teams during their 7-3 start. So he was getting betrayed by his team more than anyone in the league and was still overcoming it. Not what happened in this one. They kind of crashed down around them. The Steelers limited the Ravens to half their usual point output and over 110 yards below their usual yardage output. All interesting stuff to me. Now, I didn't know if the Steelers would go back to the man-to-man well or not, and they did. They played man on about 40% of their snaps, and Jackson had a negative EPA against man, negative 0.36. This is bad. The Steelers look like they did it a lot better this time around. Les Sutton might have been part of it, to be honest with you. He was really rough against Washington and man. And how about this? When Lamar tried to break the pocket, there were really no easy options for him. On plays outside the pocket, he was just 2 of 5. The 5 part is really important to me. For just 27 yards and a sack. He was only through 5 passes from outside the pocket. His average depth of target outside the pocket was 15.4 yards. Okay. But his average depth of completion was only 1 yard downfield outside the pocket. Now, rewatching the game, a lot of that's a pass rush plan, but a lot of it was the coverage was just a lot better. There wasn't a lot of options with him to go with the football when the play broke down. Great work by the Steelers, deep coverage guys plastering. The Ravens played a lot more 11 personnel than usual, but that's how the teams attack the Steelers, and thus Henry's snap count was down. But is that smart when you were the best offense in the league? I don't think so. Zay Flowers, who Porter followed in high leverage situations, we'll call it, had 2 catches for 39 yards. The one was a late touchdown when he faced Porter. Steelers utilized Minka as a tight end eraser. He put him up in the box, allowed him to cover Mark Andrews or Likely on obvious passing situations. I mentioned KZ played a lot more single high. That's why, because Minka was not just playing center field. And I think we might see some of that against Njoku too. When the Steelers get pressure, the play is over. They're allowing a QBR, that's ESPN's quarterback stat, of 2.2. 2.2. This is a 0 to 100 scale. When getting home with pressure this season. Opposing quarterbacks are 23 of 79 for 104 yards with 1 touchdown and 5 picks against Pittsburgh pressure this season. Throw in sacks, and they're down to 1 yard per dropback. So on all the dropbacks the Steelers have gotten a sack or pressure, opposing quarterbacks average 1 yard per dropback. That's bonkers. While they sacked Jackson only twice for a total of 2 lost yards, he was 4 for 13 for only 34 yards with a minus 21.6% completion percentage over expectation under pressure in this game. Handled it really poor and had very little production when the Steelers were pressuring him. He was pressured on 43% of his dropbacks. Big number. Herbig and Cam each had 4 pressures themselves. And I also think it's noteworthy that his average time to throw in this game, and remember, teams like to get the ball out quick against the Steelers, was extremely high, 3.45 seconds. Now, a player like Lamar can skew his average time to throw because there's a couple snaps where he runs around for like 5 and 6 seconds, which really skews things. But still, they were not getting out quick. The coverage was taking away the quick hitters and then plastering late. Speaking of Henry, I think this is a really good indicator of what he is. Now, they measure how fast these guys run. And 20 miles per hour is flying. 15 for a back is really, really moving. They only let Henry get to 10 or more miles per hour once with the ball in his hands. Only once did he kind of get to open it up. That's great stuff. I thought Cam had a really good day. He destroyed Macari. I thought Linderbaum, their center, also had a rough day. As good as Herbig played against the pass, I thought his run defense was left something to be desired. And a lot of it's just the physicality and size at the line of scrimmage. Still love him, but that's what he is. Drops and 12 penalties combined to cost the Ravens 80 total yards. It's a lot of hidden yardage left on the field by them. All right, so the Steelers' offense were 9th percentile. 0's bad, 100's good. That's really low. EPA per play. 6th percentile in success rate. 4 for 16 on third downs. 0 for 4 in the red zone. 0 touchdowns. All terrible numbers. Sorry. Russell Wilson had the following numbers against the Ravens. In the 11th percentile in EPA per play. 7th percentile in total EPA. 9th percentile on average depth of target. 4 sacks, 1 interception. All really bad numbers. Still won. I think we talked about this some yesterday, but it was pretty apparent with what they were wanting to do with Hamilton, one of their best players, was he was doubling Pickens over the top, a very high percentage of snaps. That's what they feared most. I also think that wanted to get him a little bit more away from contact. He was questionable to play in this game, but it made him really light in the run game. I mean, one of their better run defenders was playing way off the ball. So wide receiver usage, we kind of talked about this too. He was on the field for 2. Pickens was consistently on the field for 2 receiver sets. But when 2 receivers are out there, Jefferson took 14 snaps. Mike Williams took 9. Miller and Austin also played multiple snaps in 2 receiver sets. Yeah, multiple just means a few. In 11 personnel, Williams took significant snaps away from Jefferson, as Williams played 16 snaps to Jefferson's 29. That used to be a lot higher. Skoranek was nearly even with Austin at 20 snaps to 24 for the day. Miller also played 4 snaps in 11 personnel. So, in a way, this was a big step in the right direction to getting Mike Williams on the field more. Still, I thought Williams, Jefferson, and Austin made very little impact. Steelers ran the ball 14 times in the fourth quarter. 56 yards, that's not great, but you talk about beating up a team and why they're been so strong in the second half. They run you to death late in games. They played 5 snaps with 2 running backs on the field together. Cordarrelle Patterson was always one of those guys, and he's part receiver, so that's kind of cheating, but I thought that was interesting. And all those were on early downs, that two back system. Najee saw more third down work than usual, but I think that's partially because of Warren's back. Najee forced 9 missed tackles. That was more than any ball carrier this entire week in the NFL. My note is Darnell Washington is just a bad mofo. He is really growing on me in all aspects. That he is a real asset to this team. Didn't think it was a great day for either tackle, but the bar's low on Broderick Jones, and I thought he been playing a little better since the bye than before, for sure. That combination of McCormick and Frazier is extremely promising. Now they get their first Ravens game under their belt. I thought the inside offensive line in general did a really good job against Madubuike, who's one of my favorite defensive tackles in this league. Roquan was great in this game for the Ravens, but when he got injured, the floodgates opened a little bit against the run. And Trenton Simpson, who was Queen's replacement, Queen played great, was really bad in this game, especially when Roquan went out. What else do I got here? Harbaugh's team commits 12 penalties, turns the ball over 3 times, missed 2 field goals, and botch a game-tying 2-point conversion attempt in an 18-16 loss to its biggest rival. Imagine if this was a Ravens podcast and your team committed 12 penalties, turned the ball over 3 times, missed 2 field goals, which counts penalties, botch a game-tying 2-point conversion in a game you lose by 2. Think about what Ravenland's going through right now. And I'm sure you're enjoying it. Last 2 nuggets. When Tomlin has been a home underdog, Vegas says the other team is expected to win. Tomlin hasn't only covered, but he has won that game straight out 19 times out of 29. So he's 19-10 straight up as a home underdog. That's pretty remarkable. Last thing, Bengals lose. I think they're basically eliminated. And 2 things that's important with that, well, several, but I think you don't want Joe Burrow in the playoffs. I think he is dangerous and scary. Let's keep great quarterbacks out of the playoffs, and I think that is going to happen. And lastly, final game of the season is Steelers-Bengals. If they have nothing to play for, will T. Higgins or, might they sit some people and make your life a little easier? Maybe. So, all right, everyone, give me a follow at Williamson NFL. Talk to you soon.